April 11, 1865. President Abraham Lincoln is feeling downcast as he speaks with his friend and bodyguard, Ward Hill Lamon. He's telling Lamon he's highly perturbed about a dream he's had the other night, in which he'd seen a corpse lying atop a catafalque in the White House's East Room as the subdued sobs of mourners filled his ears. When he asked a soldier who it was, the soldier replied, "The president. He was killed by an assassin." A few days later, while watching the play Our American Cousin at Ford's Theater, Lincoln was shot by an assassin. He died the next day. Today, we're going to take you down the rabbit hole of the meaning of dreams, an age-old conundrum we intend to get to the bottom of. We need to start with a few real-life cases of people who had recurring dreams. And there's no better place to start than Lincoln, a man who was obsessed with his dream life. He wasn't shy about telling others about it either, despite the fact that his arguably superstitious fascination might have seemed below a man of such high intellectual standing. One recurring dream he told his cabinet about happened many times during the Civil War. He said that he often dreamed he was on a singular and indescribable vessel that was moving with great rapidity toward a dark and indefinite shore. He said that he had this very same dream before nearly every great and important event of the war. This included some of the Union's greatest victories, such as Gettysburg and Antietam. For him, it meant great changes were afoot, but as you'll soon see, modern psychologists may have disagreed. It might sound crazy to us in 2023 that the President of the USA would tell his cabinet about his dream life, but in those days, people were fascinated by dreams. Sometimes a well-known person's dreams would appear in newspapers, as did Lincoln's many times. It was thought back then that dreams might be able to unlock the doors to the future, that they might be portents, messages about what's going to happen. Lincoln was one of those people that often remembered his dreams. We all dream maybe 4 to 6 dreams a night if our brains are in working order and we're not on certain drugs that affect our sleeping patterns. They usually last 10 to 20 minutes, but because we aren't using our logical faculties when we dream, our dreams can feel much longer. That's one theory. Another says because it's related to the sleeping brain being at a lower temperature. We're effectively also paralyzed in sleep, which is a good thing since we can't act out with our muscles what's going on in the dreams. Some people wake up but remain paralyzed, a condition known as sleep paralysis, which can be scary as hell as you scream and shout and try to move your arms while you can still hear the person next to you snoring. If you've experienced it, you'll know what we mean when we say it's frightening. There are 4 stages of sleep taking about 90 minutes a cycle. It's during the rapid eye movement or REM part of that cycle that we have the most vivid dreams. The REM stage gets longer the further we are into our night's sleep. REM's relation to dreaming was only really defined in 1953, a long time after Lincoln went on trips down the river. The dreams we remember are the ones we have just before waking. Still, even if we remember them in vivid detail at first because of certain neurochemical conditions scientists don't always agree on, we forget them throughout the day. But the big ones can stay with us forever. Lincoln used to write his dreams down after waking, which, as you'll see later in this show, was probably a very good idea. Lincoln wasn't the only one who thought his dreams were more like visions of the future. Dreams have been seen as prophecies since time began. Alexander Hamilton Stevens, who was the vice president of the Confederacy through the Civil War, said the same thing as Lincoln. He said he also saw the future during his nightly bouts of disease. When he was in prison at Fort Warren at the end of the war, he said he had a number of recurring dreams, and he wrote them all down. He said he'd often wake up in tears after dreaming about being at home and saying goodbye to his slaves or visiting his deceased sister. He wrote, "For the most part, my dreams seem nothing but the aberrations of my own mind. Still, they seem to be so much more, special visitations, visits portending something." He believed God might somehow be a part of these dreams. So here we had 2 men of high intellectual caliber living in an age of rationality and reason, fighting on 2 different sides, who both believed dreams could be portents, a picture of the future. As we said, these portents were published by newspapers. The public lapped up the stories. Many people thought Lincoln's the Janus-faced vision dream was him seeing his own demise. He had the dream just after he was elected in 1860. He said he was looking into a looking glass, but what looked back at him were 2 faces, one of them much paler than the other. Lincoln told his wife Mary about this, and he also told a number of close friends. After he was assassinated, this dream, as well as the floating dream and the White House funeral dream, were printed in various newspapers. One story said that after he told Mary about the 2-faced dream, she said to him, "That means you will be re-elected. But I don't like it's looking pale. That looks as if you would not live through your second term." Lincoln was super spooked by this dream, thinking it could indeed mean he'd be a dead man during his second term. He actually died just 45 days into that second term. He was so unnerved about his dream, he tried to tell himself it was the natural result of some principle of refraction or optics. We told you, he was a rational man. Some of you might now think Lincoln was crazy, but maybe his dreams did teach him something, as we'll explain in detail soon. We can find many more stories of people who felt their dreams were important. This is the story told by the satirist Mark Twain, who said he'd had a dream of his brother's death. At the time, Twain, real name Samuel Clemens, was only 23. He had a dream his brother was dead and was so convinced that he had to be calmed down by his sister. At the time, both brothers worked on a steamboat called Pennsylvania. To cut a long story short, he and his brother got split up, Pennsylvania sank, and the brother died on it along with 250 others. Later, the scene at the funeral was exactly what young Twain, Samuel Clemens, had dreamed of. Comes as no surprise then that he later joined the Society for Psychical Research. Twain was a very, very sharp and intelligent man, but he believed dreams held a mysterious power. He once wrote, "I came in with Halley's Comet in 1835. It's coming again next year and I expect to go out with it." The Almighty has said, no doubt, "Now here are these two unaccountable freaks. They came in together, they must go out together." He died one day after Halley's Comet's perihelion. 'Twas a very good guess he made. Dr. James Watson said before he wrote about the double helix structure of DNA, he had dreams about a double-sided staircase of, in some accounts, two intertwined serpents. Paul McCartney dreamed up the song Yesterday and wrote it when he woke up. Dmitri Mendeleev, who created the modern periodic table in the 19th century, once wrote, "I saw in a dream a table where all the elements fell into place as required. Awakening, I immediately wrote it down on a piece of paper." Carl Jung, the Swiss psychiatrist, said he used to have the same dream over and over, in which he was in a giant house with many floors and rooms, which he later realized were different parts of the psyche. Still today, we often fill in personality archetype tests for fun or in the interview process for a job. Jung worked closely with Sigmund Freud until the two had a famous falling out. It was these two that became widely known for trying to explain what dreams were from a psychological point of view, not a neurobiological point of view. They didn't believe in dreams as messages from God or in other forms of divination. For them, dreams were firmly rooted in the person and could tell you a lot about that person. While they differed greatly regarding what they thought about the mind, they both understood that dreams were powerful things. Freud thought more about how dreams were manifestations of repressed desires and unconscious conflicts, while Jung once said, "They do not deceive, they do not lie, they do not distort or disguise." He said dreams could be linked with archetypes and universal themes and show us the purpose of our lives. So for Jung, dreams may show a path forward, a development. But he also said, "I've noticed that dreams are as simple or as complicated as the dreamer is himself, only they are always a little bit ahead of the dreamer's consciousness. I do not understand my own dreams any better than any of you, for they're always somewhat beyond my grasp." For Freud, who to be frank was quite dark, a recurring dream would be a reenactment of something traumatic that had happened to someone in the past. The dream might only be the way this person can awaken those dark forces. He also believed dreams were a way to release a repressed sexual desire. So if he'd read that Lincoln had a dream of a singular and indescribable vessel that was moving with great rapidity toward a dark and indefinite shore, he would no doubt have said the vessel was Lincoln's penis and the dark and indefinite shore was his repressed sexual desires. Jung might have said what many of you would think, that Lincoln's vessel was his unconscious mind on an adventure of sorts to attain personal growth, but there's much more to dreaming that these two guys came up with. So right now, we've discussed three types of recurring dreams. One is the dream as possibly a portent. As you saw, very popular in Lincoln's day, and although we didn't discuss it, popular throughout most of history. Type 2 is a dream as being part of a creative inspiration, what ancients might have said was being touched by the gods. Type 3 is the dream as a symbol, a coded message that can tell us something deeper about ourselves. This is how we usually think of recurring dreams in this day and age. What is strange is that people tend to have these same dreams. According to the Sleep Foundation, between 60% and 75% of American adults have recurring dreams, with women having them a bit more often than men. 77% of those recurring dreams are negative, with car crashes and your teeth falling out being common. Other common recurring dreams are being chased, falling, flying, being naked in public, and finding yourself unprepared for something important such as having an exam or public speaking. Let's take a look at the dream of your teeth falling out. Obviously not a very nice dream. Goes without saying that if your teeth really are falling out in real life, then this anxiety would be expected. But most people who have this dream usually have perfectly fine teeth. so it doesn't fall into what we would call the continuity hypothesis, which means dreams are just an extension of your waking thoughts or worries. Losing teeth in a dream, often just pulling them out really easily with your fingers, seems to go a lot deeper than dental hygiene concerns. The ancient Greek dream interpreter Artemidorus Daldianus said different teeth could represent different people in a household. So losing teeth could mean fearing someone's death. He also wrote it's quite reasonable that some of the teeth, when they fall out, signify the loss of possessions. That was almost 2,000 years ago and things haven't really changed much. Generally, we relate losing teeth in a dream to some kind of insecurity looming over someone. Freud once theorized that losing teeth in dreams was a fear of sexual impotence, possibly a fear of castration for men, and a fear of infertility for women. This was all related to the fear of powerlessness, he said, and for Freud, the greatest of all insecurities was losing your genitals. Some more recent studies have confirmed that people who dreamed about losing their teeth often suffered from higher levels of depression and anxiety, and in real life are worried a lot about feeling helpless and losing control. They were stuck in a loop of anxiety and depression, and so their bad dreams recurred. Researchers also said this dream is common when people face transitions in their lives. Some other studies related such dreams to actual tooth irritation, such as teeth grinding when people sleep, but that's a long shot. Obviously, some dreams are very easy to understand. Lots of people have a dream of not being able to find the bathroom, and then they wake up and find they are in need of a pee. Other dreams are far less easy to understand, such as trying to turn on a light in a dream. It would seem pretty obvious in the symbolic sense that the dream would mean somebody needs some clarity in their life to answer a question. Perhaps they found themselves in a difficult situation in life but can't find a way out, and so they need some light. This again relates to the feeling of being anxious and powerless. But why is any of this happening at all? What actually makes us dream of these things? It's not as if we go to bed wanting these dreams to happen. Sure, some dreams are just us seemingly mixing and mashing up parts of the day we had. A movie, for instance, can affect what we dream about at night, but sometimes we have the trips of a lifetime and the content of the dream doesn't seem to relate to anything you can easily explain. We can turn into producers of epic movies, yet the movies don't seem to be based on our day-to-day lives. Why? We know from looking at brain activity that the limbic system is very active during sleep. The limbic system plays a huge part in processing our emotions, motivations, and memories. The amygdala is also a part of this system, and during REM, remember that's the dreamy part of our sleep cycle, the amygdala, which processes fear and anxiety, is very active. Meanwhile, the part of the brain that is not very active is the reasoning and logical thinking part, the prefrontal cortex. It's like watching a movie without a director, just lots of memories and feelings that run wild. You have this big bag of memories and fears and emotions all swirling around, but your so-called executive suite is hardly switched on. That's why your dreams are so crazy. It's why they can defy logic. It's thought that when people have lucid dreams, when they know they're dreaming and can impact the outcome of their dreams, some part or parts of the frontal cortex are turned on. But again, why are our brains doing this to us? Why did evolution make us this way? Dreams have been with us forever and they are here to stay. But why? Our brains are certainly mysterious things. There's much we have stored on those hard drives in our heads that we're not always aware of. These hidden memories, symbols, and feelings can sometimes come out when we're not exactly dreaming, and we think this might be an answer to why we dream or have recurring dreams. Researchers from the Center for Psychedelic Research at Imperial College London wrote a paper in 2019 about the effect of the substance dimethyltryptamine, or DMT, on humans. DMT is a very powerful, sometimes life-changing hallucinogen, something Joe Rogan likes to talk about. He's not alone. The researchers report, from the altered brainwaves and participants' reports, it's clear these people are completely immersed in their experience. It's like daydreaming, only far more vivid and immersive. It's like dreaming, but with your eyes open. People on DMT, especially long exposure doses after taking a South American ritualistic concoction known as ayahuasca, have reported going on journeys and finding solutions to problems, sometimes overcoming lifelong depression or PTSD. In fact, right now, Johns Hopkins in the USA is doing similar experiments in a lab with psilocybin or magic mushrooms. Their early reports show incredibly positive results in helping people with chronic mental issues. A report noted scientists believe that psilocybin mushrooms place people into a waking dream state. The reasons for this are that the mushrooms create brain states that usually only occur when a person is sleeping. Analyzing the biological similarities and differences of psilocybin use opens up the doors for using psilocybin mushrooms as a therapy for diseases like depression and anxiety. This might explain what our dreams are there for. Maybe they are our brain's way of assessing problems we have, such as anxiety issues, an exam we have, or the threat of being dumped or losing a job. This anxiety plays out in stories, as it does when people have colorful waking dreams on DMT or psilocybin. The researchers call these waking dreams on those substances mystical experiences, and our dreams could also be said to be mystical experiences. Months after one of the psilocybin studies, 80% of the participants that experienced these waking dreams said they were among the 5 most personally, meaningful, and spiritually significant experiences of their lives. 50% of the people said it was the single most personally and spiritually meaningful experience of their lives. They were basically all dreaming while awake. Now it seems we're going back to the days of the ancient Greeks and of Lincoln, feeling dreams hold a much higher power than simply being manifestations of a movie we watched last night, or as Freud thought, all related to our repressed carnality. It is likely that gods are not in our heads, and we're not seeing the future when we dream. But our limbic systems are throwing up memories and anxieties that mean something if we analyze what happened. It's no wonder Lincoln feared his assassination. He knew people wanted him dead. In 1861, he was informed of the so-called Baltimore plot. It doesn't matter if it was a real threat or not. He was told there was, and it must have played on his mind. Perhaps his dreams just opened him up to his greatest fears. As for why musicians can write songs in dreams or scientists can have a eureka moment while asleep, it seems pretty obvious these things were already on their minds, but their dreams opened up new doors in the back of their minds. There are, of course, some wonderful theories out there regarding our dreams. We love this one from 16th century China. It's in riddle form. Once Chuang Chao dreamed that he was a butterfly. He fluttered about happily, quite pleased with the state that he was in, and knew nothing about Chuang Chao. Presently he awoke and found that he was very much Chuang Chao again. Now, did Chao dream that he was a butterfly, or was the butterfly now dreaming that he was Chao? It sounds similar to the brain in a vat hypothesis. Is our reality just a dream, and are we merely brains in a vat of nutrients connected to a supercomputer? Can we sometimes break out of this dream like in the Matrix? When we take the red pill, is taking DMT or psilocybin like taking the red pill? Okay, so we don't think there's a Matrix and we doubt we are brains in vats, but perhaps dreams can show us another reality, one we can considerably learn from. Studies have shown that the majority of people in the world believe that dreams can show us hidden truths. It's not crazy to suggest that, it seems. It's just that science can't fully understand dreams. We don't know how these dreams are organized, especially when they are spectacular trips worthy of a movie screening. All we know is that our brains can conjure up amazing things while we're dreaming or having waking dreams on powerful substances that we should add should not be taken outside of a professional setting until we understand them more. So it is possible that, like Lincoln, we have recurring dreams in an attempt to understand ourselves better and figure out our reality. Sometimes we can't, so we get stuck in a loop of bad dreams. Scientists have sometimes said that's what happens with depression. People get stuck in a seemingly eternal loop of the same negative thoughts. It would make sense that our dreams also get stuck in loops. But in the dream, we are trying to get off of this running wheel. It's possible that in some dreams we make a breakthrough. We're sure many of you have woken up from dreams feeling like a weight has been lifted off your back. These could be said to be breakthrough dreams. Scientists admit that dreams can heal, they just don't know exactly why. A British scientist also working on psilocybin studies said the dreamlike trips in his studies helped people get off their never-ending cycle of repetitive negative thoughts. Maybe that's what dreams are, people running around trying to make sense of things and sometimes trying to find pathways out of trouble. Although we don't think there's anything otherworldly about our dreams, nonetheless, what we don't know about ourselves is indeed a somewhat magical and sometimes frightening universe that nonetheless needs to be explored. Your dreams are your friend, even if it might not seem that way at times. Now you need to watch Near-Death Experiences Examined or check out The Meaning of Life in the History of the Entire Universe in 25 minutes.